Essay: The Chronological Truth Revealed in the Gospel of Emmanuel. The Gospel of Emmanuel, written by Stiwart Cedano, offers a structured and revelatory perspective on the events that shaped the life and ministry of Jesus of Nazareth. Among its most significant contributions is the precise reconstruction of the timeline of narrated events, based on a chronology consistent with ancient history, astronomical sources, and facts documented by the evangelists. In contrast to ecclesiastical tradition, which places Jesus' birth in the year 1 Anno Domini, this gospel asserts, based on solid historical grounds, that the true year of birth was 747 AUC, equivalent to 6 before Christ in our modern calendar. One of the main clarifications presented in this gospel is the notion of the year 0, unlike many historians who, for technical or astronomical convenience, assume the existence of a year 0 to facilitate calculations. The Gospel of Emmanuel insists that no such year exists in human chronology. Time moves directly from 1 before Christ to 1 Anno Domini, with no intervening year. This seemingly technical detail is crucial for understanding why, when some scholars claim Jesus was born in 5 before Christ, they are in fact referring to 6 before Christ. If one, like Cedano, rejects the concept of a year 0, this chronological adjustment is far from a theoretical speculation. It carries deep theological and narrative implications. By establishing that Jesus was born in 6 before Christ, key events of his life, such as the beginning of his ministry, the cleansing of the temple, his crucifixion, and resurrection, can be placed with greater precision. Cedano aligns these dates with verifiable historical events, such as the death of Herod the Great and the administrations of Roman governors. This reconstruction does not aim to rewrite the Gospels, but rather to organize their scattered data and resolve apparent contradictions. Thus, the Gospel of Emmanuel presents an internal calendar that strengthens the biblical narrative rather than undermining it. Far from relying on conjecture, its claims about specific dates are based on critical and detailed readings of ancient texts, complemented by archaeological data and astronomical references. The decision to fix Jesus' birth in the year 747 AUC is not arbitrary, but the result of meticulous research that connects the spiritual with the historical. Accepting this chronological framework means understanding that the Gospel of Emmanuel does not contradict the faith. It contextualizes it in real time. This revealed truth offers a solid foundation to rethink sacred history from a perspective that honors coherence, reason, and divine inspiration. The proposed dates are not mere numbers. They are keys to unlocking the eternal message of the Messiah through the order it deserves. In this way, the Gospel of Emmanuel illuminates not only the spiritual content of Jesus' life, but also the actual time in which it unfolded. The Gospel of Emmanuel adopts this perspective, correcting a tradition that has persisted without a firm chronological foundation. This interpretation should not be viewed in isolation, as it is deeply tied to the complete chronological system Cedano develops in his work. As explained in the previous essay on Jesus' birth dates, the Gospel of Emmanuel offers an alternative timeline to the traditional ecclesiastical calendar. The key lies in the consistent use of historical references, the rejection of the non-existent year 0, and adherence to the Roman logic of timekeeping. Thus, what many texts present as contradictions, Cedano unifies within a solid temporal framework, of which the Saturday of Palms is a fundamental piece. Throughout Christian history, it has been assumed that Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem occurred on a Sunday, giving rise to the liturgical celebration known as Palm Sunday. However, the Gospel of Emmanuel, along with a careful analysis of biblical texts, especially those written by the Apostle John, reveals that this entry did not occur on a Sunday, but rather on a Saturday. This claim is neither light nor speculative. It is based on a profound understanding of the ancient timekeeping system and the narrative intentions of the evangelists. Changing the day does not alter the spiritual meaning of the event, but corrects a tradition sustained more by custom than by rigorous biblical evidence. The analysis begins with a review of Luke 24:29-36, which recounts how Jesus appeared to the disciples on the night of his resurrection. According to Jewish logic, a day begins at sunset. Therefore, if Jesus appeared at night, it was no longer the first day of the week, but the second. However, the Apostle John in John 2019 states that Jesus appeared to the disciples on the evening of the first day of the week. This discrepancy is resolved when we understand that John was using the Roman time system, where the day begins at midnight. This Roman way of marking time, adopted by the Romans and maintained in Western culture, makes John's account consistent and opens the door to a more accurate review of Holy Week events. The dinner in Bethany is another key point. John 12 mentions that Jesus arrived in Bethany 6 days before Passover, and a dinner was held in Simon's house. If this dinner happened at the beginning of the Jewish Sabbath Friday night, and the Gospel says Jesus entered Jerusalem the next day, then we must understand that this entry occurred on Saturday during the daytime. Under the Roman system, that next day refers to Saturday. This interpretation is reinforced by John's narrative style, who consistently uses the next day to indicate daytime periods, as seen in John 1:29 and 1:35. The Gospel of Emmanuel adopts this view, correcting a tradition long upheld without solid chronological support. Accepting that Jesus entered Jerusalem on a Saturday instead of a Sunday does not diminish the event's significance. Rather, it realigns it with historical facts and the evangelist's thought. The mention of the next day as Saturday, seen from a Roman logic, highlights the internal coherence of the texts. Moreover, this correction enhances the precision in reconstructing Jesus' final days, allowing for a more harmonious and chronologically trustworthy reading. The Saturday of Palms, as Cedano names it in the Gospel of Emmanuel, restores the event to its rightful place in the calendar of that time. This discovery is significant because it shows that the Gospels must be read with attention to the cultural and chronological context in which they were written. John's shift in perspective and his Roman method of counting days is an interpretive key that transforms our understanding of the Passion events. The Gospel of Emmanuel does not change history. It organizes, clarifies, and honors it in its original chronology. Thus, far from heresy, the affirmation of the Saturday of Palms is a faithful correction aligned with the spirit of Scripture. The attentive reader cannot help but marvel at how such a simple truth remained hidden for centuries, upheld by a tradition foreign to the biblical text itself.